So last night, sorry first, I'm in the laundry room. My wife's work. We stay here when she's on call. So that's why it's probably an echo. But last night I was kicked off of live feed because I'm a sovereign citizen, quote unquote. No, I'm not. I'm a constitutionalist. But when you tell people you're a constitutionalist, but you also say that you're anti-police, they want to call you a sovereign citizen. You're a sovereign citizen, which they don't even know what that means. So I'm not a sovereign citizen. But the first police forces were created in the late 1830s. They were street gangs. Go look it up. You can look it up. They extorted the residents of the neighborhoods they quote unquote policed and promised safety in return. Where have we heard that before? Why didn't we have police for the first 50 years in this country? Well, because our founders had fought a police force, the Redcoats, in order to ensure our rights, and they didn't want that to happen again. So if you read Brutus number 10 of the Anti-Federalist Papers and read Article 1, Section 8, Clause 12, you will see that appropriations for standing armies are limited to 2 years by the Constitution. So that Constitution trumps all other constitutions in the United States, if that makes sense. Our federal Constitution is the one that, our constitutions in our states can be, give us more protection, but it can't give us less protection. So, what is a standing army? A standing army is the police force. It's an army of men or women embedded in the community to enforce the rule or enforce the will of those who give them orders. So, the way we're supposed to do it in this country is me and you and I are supposed to, if somebody commits a crime against me, I'm supposed to gather the evidence, take it to my elected sheriff, who looks at it and says, well, you look like you got a thing here. And if there's a need for an arrest, he then goes to the elected judge, who will sign off on a warrant. Then the sheriff will deputize individuals from the militia, you and I, to go arrest this person and take them to jail. Once we do that, our deputization is void. What you see now is we have a police force that follows orders. They do what they're told by their higher-ups, just like the Redcoats did. The Redcoats were the British military, or the British police and the military. Back then it was a little different. The word police didn't exist in the 1770s. They were standing armies. They were both the military and law enforcement. So you cannot support the police and also be a constitutionalist. It's just impossible. By supporting what they would call you in the 1770s, if you supported the police, was a Tory. He was a Kingsman. And I don't understand why people find it so hard to understand. You are supporting officers, police officers, who are part of a standing army that control the populace. I believe in my rights, and I have went out of my way, let's say that, to prove that I would do whatever. Nobody's gonna violate my rights, not even the police. And people just don't get it, man. They can't put the two and two together. Okay, if we have police that do whatever they are told to do, whether it's unconstitutional or not, they do it. That's a bad thing, and we have no say over it. Sure, we can go file a complaint. They're going to investigate themselves and find no wrongdoing. That's what happens every time. But if you and I were policing ourselves how it's supposed to be, because we're self-governing, there would be no corruption like there is. There wouldn't be an army that enacts force when you go against what the elite say, what the rulers say, what the order givers say. Prime example, January 20th, 2020, Richmond, Virginia. There's a state law, the people represented this legislature that makes a law that says they cannot take the citizens' guns under any kind of emergency. So what does the governor do? He gives an order. That's what that was. That's what that was. He gave an order for those 800 local, state, federal, and capitol police. Well, the feds did it on their own, but the local, state, and capitol police to enforce his will and disarm those people as they walked into that cage in front of the Capitol building or in the Capitol building. Where was the cops at that, are for the Constitution? Did you see anybody? Does anybody know of anybody that quit the force because of that? Have you ever heard of a cop that didn't follow those orders? No, and you won't. They will follow every order they're given because they're order followers. That's what they do. Even our military as it stands is unconstitutional because we're in a time of peace. Well, we're not now, but when we're in a time of peace, depending on how you want to, and it's really hard to decide. Oh, light went off. Hang on, I gotta turn it back on. My bad. Okay, I'm back. We're in a time of peace, and appropriations for militaries were only supposed to be for 2 years. So what they do now is they make appropriations for 2 years, and then 2 years comes, they'll sit down and make more, put out more funding for them, and then 2 years will come, they'll put out more funding for them. Whether we're peacetime or not, what they're doing is they're building an army for them. That's what they've done. And the same with the police force. They've embedded the military, the officers, that's why they call police officers, in our communities to enforce maritime law. That's what they do. So until the people, we can bitch about the people that write the laws. We can call Trump a tyrant all we want. Until we are ready to start right here at the street level, it doesn't matter. As long as the enforcers are here, all that other shit's just out there. It just don't even matter because they're going to keep enforcing the will of the order givers. When the men that designed our government were geniuses. They designed something, then told us it was our enemy. Think about that. They designed something, said, "Here's the best we got, but you better watch out because it's coming for you." And that's why the anti-federalists were against the federal government. They're afraid of that consolidation of power, what you see happening now. Federal law does not affect me where I stand at in Ohio. Now, they'll enforce it, but the reality is it's unconstitutional. The feds only have the jurisdiction and authority to make laws on legally purchased federal land. It's a fact. Go read Article 1, Section 8. You'll see it. Even DC, the size of DC is way more than is constitutionally allowed to be. And the reason for that is because they want to restrict government and keep it small. So they gave it 10 square miles. Was it how big the capital was allowed to be? It's now 68.3 or something. But all our governments are supposed to face outwardly. So the federal government is supposed to protect our rights from anything coming into the nation for violating our rights, meaning other countries or an invasion. There are states. Governments are supposed to protect our rights from other states or from the federal government. And then our local governments are supposed to protect our rights from the state government, from the federal governments and other state governments, and then also from incoming. And people don't realize that. Pretty soon what you'll see happen is if we don't do something, which, I'm all about it. Like I said, I'll be your point man. I'll give up my life and 1,000 people will be behind me ready to go. I'll be the first one through the door. But people don't want to do that. They just want to sit back and wait. And what's going to happen, what you're going to see is more and more of, and we already see it now, is the federal government will make a national sweeping law. Just arbitrarily, the president can have somebody draft up a law, and he'll sign it called an executive order, and now you no longer have the right to have a bump stock, which was perfectly legal the day before. The federal government does not do that. The president does not do that. It was never his intended job. His job is to represent us to other nations, and that's pretty much it. It's not to make national sweeping laws. Ohio law, well, I live in Ohio law, you hear that federal law trumps state law, it just doesn't. Now, they do it, and our governors let them do it, but it doesn't. It's unconstitutional as hell, and people don't understand that government just wants more government. That's why we have, and throughout history, every government became tyrannical over time. It's a disease. It just wants to grow. It's a cancer, a tumor. It wants to grow and eat more cells around it and grow and grow and grow until it kills it toast. So just do some research into all of it. do some research into the police, and don't take my word for it. This, like I said, like the best place to start is Brutus #10 and the Anti-Federalist Papers. But I would suggest you read all of them. Read all the Anti-Federalist Papers. It takes forever. There's a way you can listen to it on YouTube. If you're working or something, just listen to it. Sometimes you gotta rewind it because some of the words they used then and they use it in a different way. So sometimes it's hard to understand. For some people, it may not be. Listen to the Federalist Papers too. That's the arguments against the federal government and for a federal government. You know, the Anti-Federalists were against it. The Federalists, or the Anti-Federalists were against it. The Federalists were for a federal government. And I'm for a federal government as long as it stays within its restrictions, which now it doesn't. We're leading to you know, if you look at the comment sections in the past week or two, and look what people are saying. They want socialism. They want a totalitarian government. You know, give us money, feed us, lock that guy up. That's what you hear. And I'm not about it. I have a feeling that depending on how this goes, my life expectancy is very low. You know, take it how you want. But do the research yourself, guys, too. Just like I said, check it out. Everything I said, and you can read it all. Especially go back and read the letters and journal entries from the founders. A lot of that stuff has a lot of good information.